It's 7:15 on a July evening, and the porch is losing again. The citronella candle on the rail is guttering down to a blue thread. There's a whine at your left ear, then your right, then the slap that always misses. Behind your knees, the sweat has started, and the lawn chair you bought in April has been empty since the second week of June. The yard belongs to them now. You know it. They know it. There's a clay pot the old order families set out at dusk. Cost about $3 to build the first one. Inside of roughly 12 minutes, the air clears, and the strangest part, the honeybees on the clover 10 feet away never lift off. The barn cat sleeps through it. I'll tell you what goes in that pot. But first, I want you to understand why the can in your garage was never going to save you. If you're the sort who'd rather build a thing once than buy it every spring, pull up a chair. There's room on this porch. Hit subscribe so the next plain, honest fix lands in front of you on a Friday evening. And down in the comments, before we go any further, tell me what county you're sitting in tonight and whether the mosquitoes have already chased you indoors this year. I read them. I answer when I can. The American backyard used to be a room, a real one, with walls of fence and ceiling of sky, where a man drank his coffee in the morning and his wife shelled beans in the evening, and the children ran the perimeter until the fireflies came up. That room is gone in most houses now, not because the grass died or the fence fell, but because somewhere around the third week of June, every summer, the mosquitoes take it, and the family gives up the room without firing a shot. They go back inside, they turn on the television. The porch sits empty until October. You've felt the small humiliation of it. The chairs you picked out at the hardware store in April, that you carried home in the truck bed, that your wife wiped down with a rag, sitting out there gathering pollen because the air around them is no longer yours. You've tried the can, you've tried the candle, you've tried the blue lantern that hums and zaps and mostly kills moths and June bugs, and one confused Luna moth your granddaughter cried over. None of it gave the room back, none of it. Now here's the part that always bothers me. The average American household, by the time you tally the sprays and the coils and the foggers and the patio torches and the refills for the little plug-in things, is spending somewhere north of $90 a summer trying to take that room back. Some spend $200, some spend $4. And every spring, the shelves at the farm store fill up again with the same bottles in slightly different colors, and the same coupon clipped to the same end cap, and the same promise printed in the same yellow font. Buy, spray, buy again. That's the part to sit with. Not the money, the pattern. The thing in the bottle was designed, from the first sketch in the first laboratory, to run out, to evaporate, to wash off, to need replacing. There is a kind of company that profits when the problem comes back every Saturday, and there is a kind of knowledge that solves the problem on a Saturday and never needs a receipt again. Those two things cannot live on the same shelf. One of them had to be quietly pushed off. My wife's grandfather kept a clay pot on the south corner of his porch. Plain thing. 4 inches across, maybe 5, the kind you'd pass at a yard sale without a second look. He lit it about 20 minutes before supper. By the time the plates came out, the yard was quiet. I watched him do it as a boy, and I didn't think anything of it, the way a boy doesn't think anything of his grandmother's bread or the well in the side yard. I thought every porch had a pot. I thought every yard went quiet at dusk. It does not. I learned that the hard way in my first house, in my first summer married, sitting next to my wife at a picnic table I'd built myself, slapping at my neck while the steaks burned. She watched me a while. Then she said, plain as a Tuesday, Dottie had a pot for that. And it took me another 2 summers and a fair amount of pride swallowing before I called her uncle and asked him what went in it. He laughed at me, not unkindly. He said most people don't ask until the 3rd bad summer in a row. Here's what I want you to understand before I open the lid. The reason the citronella candle on your rail tonight is failing has nothing to do with the citronella. The oil in there is real. The plant is real. The science behind it, such as it is, holds up well enough. The failure is mechanical. It is about how the smoke moves, where it sits, what altitude the mosquito is actually flying at, and whether the heat under your oil is rising fast or smoldering slow. Nobody on the back of the can will tell you this. There's no room on the label and no profit in the explanation. The old man on the south porch wasn't smarter than the chemist. He just knew something the chemist never bothered to put in the bottle. He knew about cool smoke. And once you understand the difference between cool smoke and hot smoke, the whole spray aisle starts to look like what it is, A row of bright cans solving the wrong half of the problem, while the other half sits in a clay pot on a porch in Holmes County, doing the work it's done since before anybody you knew was born. Start with the vessel, because the vessel is half the trick. You want a small clay flower pot, 4 to 6 inches across, the kind that sits stacked behind the garage from a tomato start you never got around to planting. Clay, not metal. Clay holds heat low and steady, the way a cast iron pan holds heat after the burner's off. Metal flares. Metal pushes the smoke straight up and burns the oils out of your herbs in 3 minutes flat. Plug the drainage hole with a square of crumpled aluminum foil pressed up from the inside. That's the whole vessel. You already own one. Go look. Now the first thing from the kitchen, a generous handful of dried herbs from the windowsill or the spice cabinet. Rosemary is best. Sage runs a close second. Thyme works in a pinch. And a mix of all three is what Dottie used, because his wife grew all three by the back step. Crush them between your palms before they go in. You want the oils released, the leaves bruised, the stems broken. Half a cup, loose packed, is about right for a 4-inch pot, less for smaller. These are the herbs doing the masking work, the plant oils that ride out on the smoke and confuse the plume. The second thing from the kitchen, 1 full cup of coffee grounds, used, dried out on a paper plate on top of the refrigerator for a day or two. Don't skip the drying. Wet grounds smother the smolder and you'll be out there with a lighter 10 times. Dried coffee grounds are the slow burn engine of the whole pot. They're the reason 12 minutes is 12 minutes and not 2. They smolder soft, almost no flame, throwing a thick, low, oily smoke that carries the herb oils with it and pools at shin height the way you need it to. Save your grounds all week in a jar by the stove. You'll never throw them out again. The third thing from the kitchen, and this is the one that does the heaviest scent work, either a few sprigs of fresh citronella plant if your wife keeps one on the deck, or, and this is the dollar item, the only thing you might not own already, a small bottle of citronella oil or lemon eucalyptus oil from the feed, store or the hardware aisle, 8 or 10 drops, no more, sprinkled over the herbs and grounds after they're loaded in. That's what costs about $1 a summer, because a small bottle will last you 30 or 40 pots. This is the scent layer that masks your carbon dioxide plume from across the yard. Now the one thing from the barn, a single charcoal briquette, the plain kind, not the self-lighting kind soaked in lighter fluid, never the self-lighting kind. Break it in half with your boot heel on the porch step. Light one half on the driveway off to the side, the way you'd light a piece of smoker, and let it ash over white. 10 minutes, maybe 12. When it's gray on the outside and orange in the middle, set it in the bottom of the clay pot. No paper, no kindling, no accelerant of any kind. Pile the dried coffee grounds on top, then the crushed herbs, then the drops of oil over the whole pile. Placement matters as much as the recipe. Set the pot upwind of where you mean to sit, which means stand outside for a second, feel which way the air is moving, and put the pot on the side the breeze is coming from, so the smoke drifts across your sitting area, not away from it. Elevate it 3 or 4 feet off the ground on an overturned 5-gallon bucket, a cinder block, an old milk crate. Keep it at least 6 feet from the nearest chair, never under an eave, never near a curtain, never on a wood rail. Light it about 15 minutes before you want the yard. 12 minutes to clear and another 40 of quiet smolder after. That's the whole build. The first time you make it, you'll spend about $3, the briquette, the oil, the foil, and after that you're spending pennies because the grounds are free and the herbs are growing on the windowsill and the pot's been behind the garage since 2009. Refill it 3 times a week through July and August and you'll spend less in a summer than 1 can of the bright yellow stuff costs at the farm. Store, and the room comes back. The chairs fill up. Your wife brings out the iced tea. The granddaughter chases a firefly across the grass and nobody slaps at anything. And you sit there a minute and wonder why nobody told you about this when you were 30. I'll tell you why nobody told you. There is no patent on a clay pot full of coffee grounds. There is no quarterly earnings report built on a handful of rosemary. The kind of company that profits from a problem coming back every Saturday cannot make $1 off a fix that lasts a decade. So the fix gets quiet. It moves to the porches of the people who never needed the aisle in the first place. It survives in kitchens and barns and on the back steps of houses where the wife's uncle still hangs his straw hat on a nail by the screen door. And once in a while, somebody like you goes looking for it and finds it, and the room comes back. Now here, the honest part, because I'd be a poor neighbor if I left it out. A neighbor of mine, 2 roads over, woman in her late 60s, husband gone 4 years, the kind of porch that ought to be full on a July evening and wasn't. Tried this last summer on a Saturday after I described it over the fence. She'd been pricing a propane fogger at the farm store, $400 with the tank before refills. She called me on the Sunday morning. Sat out there till nearly 10 o'clock the night before, she said. First full evening on her own porch in 3 summers. Wanted to know what was in the pot. I told her the same thing I'm telling you. She lights one most nights now. The fogger never came home. If you're the sort who'd rather build a thing once than buy it every spring, you already know where you belong. There's a bench on this porch and it's steady. Subscribe and pull up. Next time out, I'll show you the cedar chafing sachet my mother slipped into every drawer in the house. A handful of curls from a barn beam, a square of muslin, a length of butcher's twine, closets that smelled like a clean barn for 40 years, and not one moth hole in a wool coat. Whole batch costs about $2 and lasts till the grandchildren are grown. It's a quiet thing. Most of the good ones are. It's past 9 now on the porch. The pot is still going on the south rail, throwing its low gray ribbon out across the grass. My wife is in the chair beside me with her hands around a glass that's mostly ice. There's a firefly working the fence line, and somewhere behind the barn a screech owl has started up. No whine at the ear, no slap, the yard is quiet, the room is ours again. Good night from the porch.